ओम गणानां त्वा गणपतिगुं हवामहे कविं कवीनामुपमश्रवस्तमं ज्येष्ठराजं ब्रह्मणां ब्रह्मणस्पत आनशृण्वन्नोतिभिः सीदसादनम्। ओम महागणपतये नमः। ओम भद्रं कर्णेभिः शृणुयाम देवाः, भद्रं पश्येमाक्षभिर्यजत्राः, स्थिरैरङ्गैस्तुष्टुवागुंसस्तनूभिः व्यशेम देवहितैयदायुः। स्वस्ति न इन्द्रो वृद्धश्रवाः, स्वस्ति नः पूषा विश्ववेदाः, स्वस्ति नस्तार्क्ष्यो अरिष्टनेमिः, स्वस्ति नो बृहस्पतिर्दधातु। ओम शांति शांति शांति। ओम नमस्ते गणपतये त्वमेव प्रत्यक्षं तत्त्वमसि, त्वमेव केवलं कर्तासि, त्वमेव केवलं धर्तासि, त्वमेव केवलं भर्तासि, त्वमेव सर्वं खल्विदं ब्रह्मासि, त्वं साक्षादात्मासि नित्यं। ऋतं वच्मि सत्यं वच्मि, अवत्वं माम् अववक्तारम् अवश्रोतारम् अवदातारम् अवधातारम् अवानूचानमवशिष्यम् अवपश्चात्तात् अवपुरस्तात् अवोत्तरात्तात् अवदक्षिणात्तात् अवचोर्ध्वात्तात् अवाधरात्तात् सर्वतो मां पाहि पाहि समन्तात्। So we were looking at the first adhyaya or first portion of this Ganapati Upanishad, and we saw how Ganapati is the direct representation of the Vedantic teaching. Okay, the teaching of Vedanta in fact is only an equation, that which is called as Mahavakya. So all Mahavakyas are equations which establish the identity between the individual and the total. So if you look at the individual with the qualities of the individual and the qualities of the total or Ishvara, let us say, the totality, there cannot be any identity or equality. And all our means of knowledge which are there under our disposal, like sense perception and inference, these means of knowledge are only reporting to us the qualities of the individual, which is limited. Okay, whichever way you look at it, limited knowledge, limited power, limited pervasiveness, so limited in all respects. And the total or Ishvara is presented by the Veda only as Sarvajnaha, all knowing, Sarvashaktiman, all powerful, Sarvavyapi, all pervading. So how can there be any identity or even equality? So is it not, even if you interpret the Veda to mean that there is an identity, is it not a contradiction? How can Veda come and contradict my perception, my perceptual knowledge? This is a valid question. So for that, what the answer is that Veda is not really contradicting the perception or your inference, because from the standpoint of the qualities, we are not saying Ishvara and Jiva are equal or identical. Understand that. So the perception and your inference and all that are only informing you or revealing to you the qualities. But what about the nature of the one who has all these qualities? The dharma, different dharmas are there. It is revealed by these pramanas, the means of knowledge which are at our disposal. Fine. But what is the nature of the dharmi, the one who has all these qualities? That is not revealed by these pramanas. So, actually speaking, the Veda is not really contradicting anything. We have to understand this. The Veda is talking about something different. If you talk about the wave and the ocean, and you are talking about the qualities of the wave and the qualities of the ocean, the form of the wave and the form of the ocean, there is difference, correct? Nobody is denying that. But if you look at it as water, then there is no difference. It's identical. So the dharmi, the nature of the dharmi, cannot be revealed by any of the means of knowledge which are at your disposal, because we are now talking about the subject. The subject is an eternal subject, correct? All these means of knowledge are revealing to you only objects of knowledge. But what about the subject? Who is the knower? Always who is the knower? The nature of that knower can only be revealed by the Shruti, by only the Veda. And that's what it is revealing. And what it is revealing is there is only one consciousness, which is the knower. So there is only one Kshetrajnaha. The Kshetras are many. The subtle bodies are many. The minds are many. The physical bodies are many. But everywhere, whatever consciousness is manifesting, it is one consciousness alone, one non-dual consciousness is there, one and only, in fact, we have to say, Ekameva Advitiyam. Okay, one and only non-dual, which has no divisions in any which way you can think of. Okay. So within itself also it is a whole. It cannot be divided. It's a partless whole. And it cannot be thought of as different because there is another jati or another category of thing. There is no other category of thing other than that. So there is no sajatiya bheda. Sajatiya bheda means there is no difference, like two cows are there. Okay, two cows are there means they are different from each other, although they belong to the same species. Then there is vijatiya bheda. A cow is different from a horse. So that is also not possible here. Okay. Then there are those who are like we say swagata bheda also. Within one thing also there is many divisions can be there, correct? If you take, for example, a tree. Okay, a tree has many parts. So that means it has divisions within itself. So like this, any kind of Veda, we cannot really, we cannot attribute to this Chaitanyam. This Chaitanyam is one and only one and without a second. And it does not have any form of Veda. So that Chaitanyam alone is manifesting in all the bodies which you are seeing. It is the content of each and every cognition. It is only manifesting as both the subject and object. So that's the reality which is being revealed. And all the teaching which is there here is only to explain that to you, to make that very clear to you. So Ganesha is the manifestation, direct manifestation, visual manifestation, I should say, of this teaching. How we saw that? Because the Gajamukha, Gajanana, means the Ga and Ja are interpreted in such a way that it is that the Gaja means really Sarva Karanam Brahma. Okay. Gascha, Jascha, Ga is Brahman itself, Nirgunam Brahma. And from that, whatever the appearance of the world is from there only, correct? Jayate, Jagat Jayate, iti Ja, from whom the entire world appearance is born. And who is there even without this appearance of the world. So Ga, Ja, Gaja. And the Gajanana means the face is of the elephant. The elephant face is the representation of Sarva Karanam Brahma. And the human body is the symbol of this individual human being. And Ganapati as a form represents the identity of both. They both are there in one form. And then we saw that Ganapati alone is the Karta. The Karta in every individual, the doer. And also so from an individual standpoint, Ganapati is the doer everywhere in every body. Also, if you look at it from a total standpoint, Ganapati is the Karta of the entire, he is the Srishti Karta, we have to say, correct? Then Ganapati alone, Tvameva Kevalam Dhartasi, you are the Dharta also. You are the one who sustains everything. And into you only everything goes back also. Tvameva Kevalam Harta, you are the one who takes everything into yourself again. And you are Sarvam Khalvidam Brahma. See, the Sarvam Khalvidam I told you is from Chandogya Upanishad. Sarvam Khalvidam Brahma, Tad Jalaniti. Like that it is there. So, Shanta Upasita, you do Upasana of this Brahman, being Shanta, being the one whose mind and all the Indriyas are all resolved, who has a certain calm disposition, being that person, do Upasana of this Brahman. And what is this Brahman? Brahman is everything. Whatever you see here, everything is Brahman alone. Why? Because this entire thing has come from that Brahman, Tajjam. And it goes back into that Brahman, Tallam. And it is also living here, sustained here by that Brahman alone. That Aniti means Praniti. Everything that is sentient here, everything that which is living here, it is all only due to Brahman. All the very existence of these things are because of Brahman alone. So Tad Jalan. So how do we say the all that is here is Brahman? Because Brahman is the cause. The material cause pervades the effect. So you may have hundreds of pot, but you can say all that is here is only clay. Correct? From the standpoint of clay, there is only one clay. So that is the Rishi arithmetic. My Guruji used to always say, the Rishi arithmetic is what? You are seeing all the names and forms, so you can count as much as you want. But there is only one material. There are hundreds of bangles, chains, jewelry. You go to a jewelry shop, but there is only one gold. Gold alone is real, in fact. The existence is there only of the gold. If you touch the jewel, it is gold. If you weigh the jewel, it is the weight of the gold only. Correct? Even if you want to sell it back, it is only taken as gold. Gold alone is Satya. The name and form doesn't matter. So, the name and form is Mithya. It is having only dependent existence. It has no existence of its own. Like that, Ganapati alone is there here. Because Ganapati is Sarva Karanam, is the cause of everything. So when we talk about cause, the important thing is, it is not, Ganapati is not just like a potter who is sitting somewhere, correct? So cause means there is a intelligent cause, there is a material cause, and there are other causes are also there, correct? Like if you take a pot, there is a potter, who is the intelligent cause. There is the clay, which is the material, and then there are other causes like the wheel, which is used to rotate and make and even the stick, which is used to rotate the wheel, and you make the pot while the wheel is rotating. Now, in this case, Ishvara is all these causes in one. Understand that. Because many theologies say that God in heaven created this world. Okay. Then who created the heaven? God only created. Okay. Then where was God before heaven was created? So if you keep asking like this, they'll say, shut up. So, or they have to say God created everything out of nothing. Okay, this is their official dogma of some theologies, is what God created this entire world out of nothing. But nothing, from nothing only nothing can come, something cannot come. Okay, it is not, it is illogical. So we have to say God is a provisional word, we don't even want to use it. We have to say Ishvara is better, I think. Ishvara created this entire world out of nothing else, we have to add, nothing else. Means Ishvara does not have to go and borrow material from anywhere. If you have to make chapati and if you don't have atta, you can go to your neighbor and borrow, correct? You want to make bread, you don't have the flour, you can go and get some flour to make bread. God cannot go, or Ishvara cannot go and borrow anything. So Ishvara created this entire world out of nothing else means what? Ishvara is the material also. Ishvara is both the intelligent cause and the material cause. This is the basis of our culture also, religious culture. Understand that. If all that is here is only Ishvara, then Ishvara is not a matter for belief also. Ishvara is to be understood. All that is here, including my body, mind, sense complex, everything is a manifestation of Ishvara. So if you are able to appreciate this vision, then you have to accept whatever is there here as it is, correct? Because it's a manifestation of Ishvara, including your own, whatever shortcomings you are seeing in yourself. It is all part of Ishvara's order only. Everything that is here, you can see that there is a certain order in all these things. There is a physical order. That is why we can even study it scientifically. So there's a physical order, chemical order, biological order, physiological order, psychological order, moral order. Everywhere there is order. That I am born and everything is given is part of the order. That there is so much oxygen in the air, that water is available, food is available, everything is given, correct? And the giver is there, and all these things are in order. It's all the giver's order. So whatever is happening or happened in my life also is part of that order. Everybody has a certain background. That is all part of the order. And that you are like this is also part of the order. But that you want to become something also is part of the order. And if you make that effort, you can become something. That is also part of the order. Correct? But the best part of the order should be what? That you make the effort to know yourself, your real nature, because that is the only thing which really matters. Without knowing yourself, there is no meaning in pursuing other things. Okay, so one has to know oneself, because in my vision I see myself as a limited being, but in reality am I this limited being? That has never been analyzed. I take myself for granted and then go about the life, whatever life is there, going after different things, which is a never ending pursuit. But when I analyze myself, the simplest of the analysis is what I always repeat this, but repetition is not a defect in teaching in general and in Vedanta in particular. So the simplest of the analysis which everybody should do is whatever I see is not I. So this is a very fundamental analysis. And from this, what I understand, I see the body, therefore body is not I really. Although I may identify with the body and even do vyavahara, sometimes as my body, or body itself I call I. I am blind means again you are identifying with your sense organs. I am fat means you are identifying with the body. I am dark, I am fair, all body identification. Identification with the sense organs, identification with the prana. I am hungry, I am thirsty. So all these identifications are there. But when you analyze, whatever I know is not I, because it's a object of knowledge. I am always the subject, the knower. So whatever I know is not I, including my body, my sense organs, the prana which is there, correct, which is doing all the physiological processes. Then mind also. All the thoughts are evident to me. All my emotions are evident to me. Whatever is happening in the mind is evident to me. I know my thoughts. So I am not the thoughts also. Then who am I? I am that consciousness which is revealing all these things all the time. I am that conscious being who is always this invariable in each and every cognition. That much I can appreciate. In fact, I don't even need anybody to teach me. If you analyze yourself, everybody can arrive at this conclusion that I am a conscious being. But then there is a question, then how many consciousnesses are there? Because I see so many sentient beings, each of them have a separate consciousness. Because I cannot establish that myself, because consciousness never becomes an object of your consciousness. At least if there is another consciousness, it never becomes an object of your consciousness. Always the object of your consciousness is some insentient thing only, including the body of others. Correct? So this is where Veda comes and tells you. The teaching, the Veda is only revealing to you where you have wrong notion about yourself. You think you are the limited being. Then the Veda comes and says, hey, no, there is only one consciousness. Whenever you say I, that I is really that consciousness alone. That consciousness alone is manifest as this entire universe, all the objects and all the sentient beings. Everywhere, only this consciousness alone is manifest. And that consciousness is you. So, Tvam Sakshad Atmasi Nityam. So, I think we were here last week. You are that Atma. In fact, Atma word itself has a intelligent, interesting etymology. Bhashyakara also quotes it in Kathopanishad Bhashyam. So again there are differing opinions. I think some people say that the quotation is from Mahabharata, and some people say it is from Linga Purana and all that. Okay. But anyway, that quotation is what there is a yadapnoti yada yachapnoti yadadatte yachati vishayaniha यच्चास्य संततो भावः तस्माद् आत्मेति कीर्त्यते तस्माद् आत्मेति भण्यते. Also there is a reading. Okay, so यच्चाप्नोति यदा दत्ते यच्चाति विषयानिह यच्चास्य संततो भावः तस्माद् आत्मेति कीर्त्यते. Okay, only in tune if you say, some people can grasp it. So anyway, here yacha apnoti, that which is here, apnoti means vyapnoti, that which is pervading, all pervading, because consciousness alone pervades everything, correct? In every cognition, the consciousness pervades both the subject and the object, and that entire world can be reduced into only subject object. Understand that. The entire world can be reduced into subject object, atma, anatma, whichever way you divide it. Consciousness pervades both. That's why yacha apnoti yad adatte. Okay, that which grasps everything, that to which everything becomes evident. In fact, everything resolves into this atma only. And yacha atti vishayani hai, that which is actually perceiving everything. Atti means also one word, one meaning of atti is to eat and all that, but in this context, all objects of knowledge are evident to which atma is known by whom. Okay, atti. Then yachasya santato bhavaha, that which is always there. Santataha bhavaha means its existence is always there. Even in your own life, I was the child, I was the youth, I was the adult, I am whoever I am right now, I will be. So the I is invariable. I am the sleeper, I am the dreamer, I am the waker. The I is the invariable. The I is always there. Whatever is known, that comes and goes. All the states come and go. All the stages of life come and go. The different times come and go. Past, present, future. But the cognizer, the knower, is always there. Okay. So that is the beauty here. That Atma is always there. So the Atma word itself is derived from different roots. That's why it is all pointed out. Okay. If you go to the Dhatu Pata, the word Atma can be derived from these 4 different roots. If you look at it, and then this is quoted in Mahabharata, the word Atma, the meaning of Atma is, that's why it is called Atma, they say. Okay, because from this itself again the entire Vedantic teaching is there. If you understand the meaning of the word Atma, then you have understood Vedanta. Or without understanding Vedanta, you cannot understand the meaning of word I or self. Atma is translated as self or I, really. And this Ganapati is the Atma always, who is there, this Atma which is there Nityam, in fact. Eternal Atma, eternal self in all. Whenever you say I, you are actually really referring to this conscious being, this consciousness is itself, which is self-revealing, self-existent, because I, you do not have to know through any means of knowledge. All other things you have to know by using some means of knowledge. I is always there. It is self-revealing, self-existent. And that Atma is Ganapati, means that Atma is again Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma, because Ganapati is really Nirgunam Brahma, Sarvakaranam Brahma also, the cause of everything, and that cause, the status of being cause also is only incidental because the effect is Mithya. So the status of being the cause of everything also is Mithya. And what is there is really only Satyam Jnanam Anantam, the Vastu. In reality, this consciousness alone is there as it is. And that consciousness is nothing but Ganapati. So like this first part is this teaching. And now this, whoever is the Rishi here is saying, Pratigna is doing, is now saying that whatever I said, okay, Ritam Vachmi, or there is a reading Ritam Vadishyami also. Ritam Vadishyami, Satyam Vadishyami, like that even in Yajurveda there is a chant is there, correct? Shanti Mantra. Here it is Ritam Vachmi, Satyam Vachmi. So Ritam, Satyam, two words are there. Okay. What is the meaning of these two words? So Ritam here, we take it as Vyavaharika Satyam, truth in this relative transactional world. Truth means that which is not false. Okay, na anritam. So you go and ask somebody, what is the way to go to some place? Means many people have this habit that whether they know or not, they show you some direction. Because anyway, they are not going to go there and get lost. So one should not be like that. If you don't know, you have to say you don't know. If you know, you tell the truth. So in the Vyavahara, if you say something which is truthful always, then that is Ritam. So Ritam Vachmi. So what here the Rishi is saying is, I am telling the truth. Okay, from the relative standpoint. Satyam Vachmi. Satyam also. Satyam here is the Paramarthika Satyam. So Satyam here is actually an ontological term, we have to say. Ontological term means what? That which reveals the status of its reality, status of the reality of anything. Okay. So you see, you look at the pot. Pot is Mithya. Mithya also is an ontological term. Okay, because it doesn't really exist. It doesn't have existence of its own, the pot. It's only a name and form. Then what is Satyam? Vrittika ityeva Satyam. Clay alone is Satyam. Clay alone is the reality. From the standpoint of pot, clay alone is real. But then if you change that standpoint also, no, clay is only a name and form. Only molecules are Satyam. Then molecules also, no, only atoms are Satyam. Then only subatomic particles are Satyam. Like that you can keep on going. But Satyam means, here Satyam itself is not an object or anything. Understand that. Satyam is a word which reveals the ontological status, that which is, once you have ascertained something as this is it never changes. Yad rupena yan nistitam bhavati, tad rupena tanna vyabhicharati iti Satyam. Bhashyakara in Taittiriya Upanishad commentary, he gives this. So that which you have ascertained to be of a particular nature, that thing never changes that nature in all periods of time. That means you can never negate it. Once you have known it as it is, it can never be negated. That which can be never negated in all three periods of time, that alone is Satyam. That is the truth. Correct? And there is only one thing like that, which is consciousness itself. because that alone is the invariable in every cognition. So it is always there as the consciousness itself, and it never changes its swarupa also, its nature. Once you have ascertained yourself as this conscious being, there is no change in that. That is the truth. You are always the consciousness alone. Everything else is only an object of consciousness, and objects of consciousnesses are all the time changing. They are all only names and forms. They don't have any reality of their own. They come and go. That which comes and goes, that which changes, that is Anritam, Mithya. Okay. So Satyam here is Paramarthika Satyam also. I am telling you, Ganapati alone is Paramarthika Satyam. And what I say also here is, from the relative also I am telling the truth. Absolutely also, whatever I am saying is the truth. From both standpoints, I am telling you the truth. And further what? Now a prayer is there. Okay. Now this truth has been revealed already, and there is a pratigna also has been made that whatever I am telling is the truth. This is the teaching, this is the truth. But still what? It's all okay when I hear everything is clear in the class. But then what happens? It's all gone. It doesn't stick. Correct? The other, whatever habitual tendencies overtake, it is all powerful. I always go back to the habitual tendencies take me, they as though grab me and make me take myself as a limited individual. Although in reality I am this consciousness which is all pervading, which is limitless, which does not lack anything. But still that knowledge is not available to me. Whenever needed, it has to be available, correct? But it is not like that. It's not available to me whenever I want. This knowledge is not available. So what do I do? So you have to pray only. Even for that, you are praying to the Lord, saying that, "Oh Lord, Ganapati, protect me from all this ignorance, all the vigna also." See, all these things are really obstructions only, correct? They are all obstructing you from getting the results of this knowledge. This knowledge, when you listen to this, everything is clear. This knowledge is available, but still it is not available when you want it. So what do I do? So you have to pray to the Lord even here. And what is that? Avatvam mam. So protect me. Ava means protect. You protect me. Here the me is actually the teacher you can take. Okay, or whoever is reading, or the individual. Avatvam mam. You protect me. Protect me from what? Protect me from all the obstructions to this knowledge. Keep away all these obstructions, all the ignorance and its karya, its effects, which are dragging me and making me, in fact, they are giving me infinite loss, correct? Because from being the limitless, they make me into a limited individual. So there is limitless loss is there. So protect me from this limitless loss. Only Ganapati has to protect, so that this knowledge is assimilated and you have the results of this knowledge. You can enjoy these results of the knowledge. Otherwise, even though knowledge is there, it is not assimilated. That is a problem. So until you assimilate and until your self identity transforms, right now the self identity is effortlessly, the identity is established in the human being only, that I am a human being, I am so and so, I am this individual. So the entire self identity is established in that effortlessly. That is what we call sahaja. Naturally, even if you are asleep, I wake you up and ask, who are you? You are going to say, I am so and so. That identity is natural. So what do? We have to change that identity by recollecting this knowledge. I am in reality this conscious being who is limitless, who's not limited by anything really. Okay. So that knowledge has to be always available. And for that, all the obstructions have to be cleared, or I should be protected from all these obstructions. The obstructions should not be stronger than my knowledge. They should not cover. So avatvamma, protect me. Avavaktaram, protect the one who is teaching this teaching, correct? The teacher. Vaktaram, the one who talks. Avashrotaram, protect the Shishya also, the one who is listening. Because the Shravanam is the primary means of gaining self-knowledge. Atma va are drashtavyaha shrotavyaha. Shastra Shravanam has to be done. You have to listen to the Shastra from a Guru. That listening only first, by listening to the Shastra, you understand what is the vision of the Shastra about you. The Shastra itself is a word mirror. It is revealing to you your true nature. And then in the light of that revelation, you have to see yourself. That's all. In the light of the words of the Guru, Guru is already seeing the truth. And Guru is communicating that same truth through words. And the same words, you have to allow those words to operate. That's all. Because any knowledge has to be true to the object of knowledge. Your will plays no role in that. You may not like, let us say, Karela, okay? You don't like bitter gourd. But since you don't like the bitter gourd, you cannot know it as something else, correct? So there is no role of free will in knowledge. Knowledge is always Vastu Tantram, it is not Purusha Tantram. But the problem is many times, even in knowledge, it is all colored by our own likes and dislikes and all that. Okay. So here, or even not only by likes and dislikes, even by, again, habitual tendencies, you think whatever is familiar is truth. Okay. So most people go by familiarity, even though something may be bad in a sense that it's not really doing you any good. But still you may go along with certain things just because it is familiar. There is a fear of the unknown also, always. But in this case, there is nothing unknown really, it is yourself. Veda is talking about yourself. It is telling nice things about you, in fact. You are the limitless. There cannot be anything better than this. You do not lack anything. You are not a wanting being. You are complete. You are whole. You are the source of all happiness. So that you are hearing from the Shastra, from the Guru, and you have to appreciate that. To appreciate it, you have to let that Shabda Pramana operate. That's all. Then that knowledge has to take place. Because when the knower, known, and the means of knowledge are aligned, knowledge will take place. And that itself is the blessing, in fact. So may you remove all obstructions so that this alignment can take place. Ava Shrotaram. Whenever I'm hearing the Shastra, let all other obstructions go away. Let my mind be aligned to the teaching. Let me, in fact, I have to say, mind itself is not a problem. Understand that. I am the listener. I, as a listener, may I be aligned with the teaching. May I let the means of knowledge operate. That's all, in fact. That is good enough. Because in this case, the subject matter is yourself. That is always there. So you cannot say that. See, at least if you want to see some wild animal, it is very difficult to sight, correct? It will run away. So getting the object of knowledge itself is a problem. I want to see a peacock. It comes in our place every day, but still it is very difficult to see it. It will run. If you want to go near it, it will run away. But Atma is not like that, correct? It is not running away anywhere. It is always there. You are the Atma, in fact. So whatever is to be known is always available. And the knower, you are the knower. And the means of knowledge, teacher is teaching you. Only thing is now you have to listen. You have to be engrossed in the teaching. Correct? You have to listen in such a manner that there is no other disturbance. Something else does not take your attention away. All you have to do is attentively listen and let the means of knowledge operate. But that itself is a very big difficulty for many people. Mind goes away somewhere. You have to bring it back again. You cannot go along with your mind. Correct? The nature of the mind is to jump from one thing to the other. That's how it is. That's how creativity also is there. That is its nature. Thinking means it has to keep jumping from one thing to the other through association. There's nothing wrong in that. But whenever you want, you should be able to focus on something. That much you have to prepare yourself. That's all part of preparation. And even there are obstructions are there. When you are sitting, if your back is paining, you will not be able to focus on what the Guru is saying. There can be any number of obstructions. So protect me from all of that as a listener, as a Shrota, Avashrotaram, Avadataram. Protect the one who is giving this knowledge. If the giver is not there, then how will I listen? There has to be this Guru who not only knows it, but who also knows how to reveal that, who knows the methodology to teach, who can communicate. Whatever one knows, one has to be, not everybody is able to communicate it so that the other person also can know it. So even the giver has to be protected. Avadhataram. Dhataram means what? One who, dharana, we say, correct? Dhatra, means one who holds it in one's mind. Medha Shakti also we say. Medha means the ability to hold many things in your mind and analyze and see the truth behind all that. Medha. Dhata. Dhata means one who is able to hold all these things. One who grasps and holds. Dhataram. Again, Dhataram here is a Shishya. Different ways they are saying the same thing. The giver, Guru, protect the Guru. And receiver, one who holds it, also protect. Avanuchanam avashishyam. Also again, anuchanam means what? Repeater. Again here the anuchanam can be taken both as the teacher and the student. One who repeats after the teacher is normally known as the anuchana. Okay, because Veda itself is learned in an oral tradition and we always repeat, correct? If you go and learn something from your Guru, the Guru will first chant something, you have to repeat it 2 times in fact. That's how we learn, correct? Vedic chanting and all. If you learn Veda Adhyayanam, so the teacher will chant once, students have to repeat twice. Like that only they learn orally everything. Anuchanam means so one who is repeating after the teacher also is anuchana. But here since avashishyam is there, in keeping with the in all other places, see avavaktaram, avashrotaram, avadataram, avadhataram.
Yeah.
So here ava anuchanam can also be taken as the teacher who is repeating the teaching again and again, because this teaching has to be repeated. Or even the one who is doing a upasana also is repeating, correct? This vidya, if you take Ganesha upasana as the one which is being taught here also, even when you do upasana, it is nothing but a santati, correct? It's a flow of thought, flow. You visualize something and that has to flow. That itself is repeating in your mind in a flow. So such a person, protect. So anuchanam can be taken as the teacher who is repeatedly teaching you or repeating. And shishyam, the student, protect the student. So here this whole prayer is about protecting oneself, protecting the teacher, protecting the student. Then what? Protection also, we want complete protection. Okay. Ava paschattat, ava purastat, avottarat, ava dakshinattat. So paschattat, purastat, uttarattat. Attat means actually whatever you are obtaining, you are gaining, like that, you are grasping. So whatever you are contracting, okay, like a virus, let us say, is called attat. Attat here, atta means. So paschattat, purastat, uttarat, dakshinattat, urdhvattat, adharattat, means you can contract all these things from east, west, north, south, in between directions, also below, above, from all sides. Protect me from this ignorance. I can contract ignorance from any side, or I can get obstructions from any side. Okay. That is what is the meaning here. So from different directions, from east, west, north, south, below, above, protect me, because this ajnana and ajnana karya, ignorance and its results, can come from anywhere, from all over, and I have a tendency to contract them, to come into contact with them, to grasp that. So protect me from all these things, from wherever it comes. Protect me. In fact, finally what is it? Sarvato mam pahi pahi samantat. So from all these obstructions, vignas or ajnana and ajnana karya, mam pahi pahi, protect me, and samantat also. Okay. So samantat means what here? Protect me in all ways, with your glory, with your power. From all these things, protect me completely. Give me complete protection, so that I will not fall back into this life of samsara. I will not fall back from the limitless. I should not fall into limited. That's the limitless loss, in fact, infinite loss. So I am praying to Ganapati here that protect me, protect my teacher, protect the listener, protect the one who is teaching, protect the listener, protect the one who is giving, protect the one who is holding, protect the one who is repeatedly telling me, revealing to me, and protect the student who is receiving that. Protect me from the east, protect me from the west, protect me from the north, protect me from the south, protect me from below, protect me from above, protect me from all these things completely, totally. Protect me with all your being Ishvara. You have all knowledge, all glory, all power. With that, protect me. In fact, the protection itself, when are you not protected? Also, we have to understand. Okay. If you go against the order of Ishvara, then only your individuality is reinforced. Your limitations are only reinforced. In fact, then you are not protected. When are you protected? You just go along with the order of Ishvara. Ishvara's order, you go along with that. Then you have nothing to worry. The script is Ishvara's. Ishvara is the director. You are only playing your role in this play. It's all only Leela, correct? From an individual standpoint, you just go along with the order. Then you don't have to be protected. In fact, you are protected automatically. But otherwise, it is like my Guruji used to say, you go and rub yourself against an old tamarind tree. Nothing happens to the order or Ishvara, correct? Tamarind tree, nothing will happen. But you cannot wear even a t-shirt then for a few days, correct? That's what will happen. So if you go against the order, that you go against the order also is part of the order we have to take at one level. But if you go against the order also, again you will get the results for that. That is also in the order. But as long as you are going along with the order, then you have a certain leisure, correct? Then all this teaching and all can be assimilated easily. Because if you go against the order, the going against itself is because of only some pressure, some complex. It's all only reinforcing your individuality, your limitations really. So this is the prayer here. May Lord Ganapati protect all of us from all directions, from all forms of ignorance and its effects, and also may protect us from all obstructions which can come for this knowledge. So with this prayer, we'll finish this week. We'll continue. Further, in fact, Ganapati is revealed as all that is here in different ways, because I told you, you can divide the world into subject, object, or three avasthas, or three gunas. Like this, in many different manners you can divide. Whichever way you divide, everything is Ganapati only. That is again taught very beautifully, that Ganapati is the Sarvatma, everything is Ganapati only. Everything is this Brahman. In fact, Ganapati is Saguna Brahma, Nirguna Brahma, Swarupa. Ganapati is of the nature of Brahman only. So that Swarupa of Ganapati will be revealed as everything, whichever way you look at it. So that we will continue next week. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Namaha. Harihi Om.
धन्यवाद गुरुजी.
धन्यवाद.